Hey, welcome back to the LSAT Prep. I'm your host, Jamie Sherman, and today we're going to be talking about the reading comprehension section in a lot more detail. I promised before that we'd go into more elaborate detail about the passage and how to attack it. So we're going to start off taking a look at the main points that you have to look at when you're reading the reading comprehension section. Now, for each reading comprehension passage, you're going to find that very often you'll find 4 different types of questions commonly asked with them. And those are the main point questions, the attitudinal questions, the purpose questions, and the structure questions. Now, when looking at the main point of the passage, you want to take a look at the passage as a whole. Often, there could be multiple points of view, separate authors, differing theories, even conflicts. So you have to understand the passage in context. And if you don't, you might miss the main point. Sometimes the main point is summarized in the first paragraph, maybe in a sentence or two, or often it could be in the last paragraph, the last sentence. Now the attitudinal questions. The attitudinal questions usually have to do with the author's attitude. And of course, once again, this is very important. You need to take a look at what the author is saying if they say, what is the author's attitude? And very often, there can be multiple points of view. So make sure that you're looking to see what the author is saying and not what some other reference or source is saying or what a conflicting person is saying. Make sure that it is the author's words, not somebody else's words. Now, purpose questions ask, why was the passage written? You have to take a look and see exactly what the author is trying to do. Are they trying to refute something, agree with something, stay neutral? This is really important, and you have to build on the context of the language in order to figure this out. Sometimes it can be found in the last paragraph, sometimes it can be found in the first paragraph, but very often you're going to have to take a look at the adjectives to see what they're getting at. And then there's the structure questions. Structure questions ask, how was the essay organized? It may say that there was a certain argument put forward, a hypothesis or a thesis. The main thing is that you have to take a look at where things diverge. Take a look at paragraph breaks. See if there's other thoughts being introduced, and especially take a look at the first paragraph to see if there's a big idea being put forth. And then, of course, at the end, you also have to see if there's any little changes. Were they looking to reaffirm something? Were they looking to conflict with somebody else? Or were they just staying along the mainstream line of thought that was put out from the beginning? So you have to take a look at everything as a whole when you're taking a look at the structure passage. Now, understanding these 4 types of questions will really help you when you're trying to read through the passage, and they'll overlap over most of the essays. But there are a little bit of variations within them, and especially concerning the main point, you might find that there's different ways that they ask you it, such as maybe what title best summarizes the essay, or what is a good summary of the essay. And when you have those, you're still trying to look for the main point, and you still want to have the main idea get across, which is why it's vitally important that you read through the passage very carefully, scanning for any changes in speakers, or in arguments, or in maybe conflict. After you become familiar with these main types of questions, you'll really be able to get an understanding of the passage as a whole, and you'll be able to more readily move on to the more specific questions. The more specific questions usually make reference to a specific line or phrase inside of the essay. And as I'll show you later in mapping the essay, you'll have a really easy time of being able to figure out the answers to the references that are directly in the passage. And the best part is that everything that you'll find in the essay will be related in the questions, and the questions will all be derived exactly from the essay. So nothing that you need is missing. Everything is in there, and you'll be able to find it. Now, concerning the order in which you do this, I highly recommend that you do the essay first. Why? Because once you become familiar with the types of questions and how to attack them and how to map out the essay, you're going to have a much easier time focusing on the questions and getting them right. And you're just going to be wasting your time if you try to look at the questions first, because typically they're all similar. They're all very much the same. And so going into the essay, knowing and expecting what to see in the questions will really help you map out the essay and save a lot of time between referencing back and forth. So now we're going to be taking a look at a reading comprehension section and how I've mapped and underlined different words. As I went along, as I have said before, I started to circle and underline key important ideas, nouns and verbs, so that I can reference them later when I went to answer the questions. And down below, I put in boxes to show and brackets to show that there is a change in thought and a commentary by the author being made. As you can see here, it says, although written in apparent ignorance of the vast critical traditions of interpreting literary romance, is nevertheless a splendid achievement. So the reason I boxed this in was because it made a huge point. And often you want to bracket stuff like that are big points in the essay, or big changes or big affirmations, so that later on when they say, what does the author think about this, you'll quickly be able to reference it. That's just one method that I had used to do that. Now this here is a demonstration of a definition that I had circled. I intentionally circled benignly because that word described a definition that the author ascribed to something. And if you can see over here, it says, according to the passage, Bettelheim believes that when children interpret a story benignly, and there's an answer to that. And so that's why it pays off to circle different key definitions in the story, because when I went to go look for that word benignly, I quickly referenced it over here. And once you practice a lot and you get used to looking for the key ideas, the main points, and the structure of the passage, you too will be able to underline those and circle those key points, which are often referenced in the questions they ask. Now, to practice these methods, you're going to need to time yourself very carefully. What I recommend is that you start out just by doing a single passage at a time. Simply take an alarm clock, or go online and find a timer, or get a timing piece, and set it for 8 minutes and 45 seconds. And then take just one essay during that amount of time, because 4 times that amount of time would equal 35 minutes, and you're doing 1/4 of the essays. So if you do that, it'll start to give you an idea of how long you'll be spending on average on each essay. And if you practice like that, you'll eventually be able to time manage yourself much better, and then you can build yourself up to 35-minute sections, taking 4 at a time. This way, you'll do it incrementally, and you'll be better able to see the bigger picture as to how much time you have to actually read through for each one. You'll be able to gauge the length and time needed, and you'll be able to gauge how much time you have to take on each question. So ultimately, you have to look at the reading comprehension section as more of a finding type of game. Everything that they state inside the questions is basically found inside of the reading passage. And very often, you'll be able to specifically find what they ask for. So beginning by underlining those key nouns and verbs, bracketing those arguments, conflicts, and definitions will really help you be able to find and describe exactly what the questions are looking for a lot quicker than if it was just left blank. And there's another great reason to underline and define those things, and that's the pencil movement. As you put your pencil across each line, it forces your eyes to follow along the lines. And instead of getting distracted or hearing noises that will make you think other thoughts, it really helps to keep you focused and to keep yourself methodical. And when your pencil's already down, it's not too hard to already underline or circle as you go along. And it'll keep you going at a good pace, and that way you'll be able to actually have control over your timing. You'll be able to say, I'm moving at such a pace, and if you're feeling that you're working too slow or working maybe too quickly, you can adjust that by feel. And it'll be a mechanical habit that as you develop it, by taking a bunch of practice tests, will become natural and easy to you. And by the time you're ready to take the LSAT, it'll be a cinch and you'll be used to doing it.